Hello, I know some of you I don't know. So those of you I don't know, I always think I don't know what I do when people ask me what do you do for a living. I don't know anymore. I think the only thing I would listen to me really on is I'm a project manager by trade. I've been a project manager for over 30 years. It's the thing that I've probably got the most experience in. I'm not talking about project management tonight, which means I'm now definitely out of my comfort zone. What I wanted to share this time is actually, I've been in the games industry for probably the last 16, 17 years of my career. In fact, I started my career back in this building when it was Blitz many years ago. It's kind of freaking me out slightly because I can still remember the old layout and it kind of messes with my head a little bit. But I've been on a bit of a journey, so I've worked for a hire studio, I ran my own studio for a number of years, I work on a publisher side now, but I've always been on like the sharp end of the decision making. So the bit that's really stressful where you ultimately take responsibility for the success or failure of things. I always think I take credit for nothing if it goes well, responsibility for everything as it goes badly. And throughout that, I like to think mostly, people who know me would say I'm mostly a chipper person. And people have often said, how do you stay so happy when things are going so badly? And that's kind of what I thought I'd share with you today, because actually if you're in games, you know that things go well, but they also go not so well. And actually that's where some of these skills can help. And I kind of call this lessons from Acts 1 and 2. I'm 52 years old. Statistically, I'm probably going to live till I'm 75, so I'm into my third act. So I've done Act 1 and 2, and this is where I'm going to share the stuff that I've learned in those first two acts. Fortunately, Act 3 is like the resolution. I should have learned everything by now. I'm on the journey home, if you're familiar with the hero's journey. So fundamentally, what I want to talk about is what people would call happiness and resilience. I don't really like happiness. I think it's a fairly useless term. I think fulfillment's a better goal than happiness. Like happiness is, by its very nature, has to be transient, because to have happiness, you have to have unhappiness as a counterpoint, otherwise it's just normal, right? You have to have the balance between those two. So to aim for permanent happiness is an oxymoron, because if you're permanently happy, is that happy because that's just your baseline? But what I really want to think about is how you have a fulfilling life and resilience, and I want to talk a bit about what resilience is, because I think it's a misnomer. I think people think resilience is being able to carry any burden, no matter how strong, without ever falling down, and it's not. Resilience is going, I'm tired now, I need to put this burden down and walk away from it for a while. That's a resilient decision. Resilience isn't carrying on regardless and being bulletproof and impermeable. And actually those of us who spent our lives sometimes pretending that we are impermeable do a disservice to those around us because they think that that's what it's supposed to be like. But we'll talk about some of that as well. And for me, fulfillment, if you don't know it, it's worth watching. There's a great book and a really short video on YouTube by a guy called Dan Pink, who spent a lot of time researching what makes us tick, what as human beings do we find stimulating and rewarding and makes our life better. And fundamentally it falls down into these three things. As human beings, if we have autonomy, a sense of purpose and mastery over what we're doing, then that makes us happier, that makes us more fulfilled. And that's what we probably, if you recognise your good parts of your job when you're doing things that make you happy, it probably has elements of all of those things. You're getting better at a skill that you're proud of, you're building mastery, you have a goal, you're working with a team towards releasing a game, you have a sense of purpose, and ultimately you have some sense of autonomy even though you're working with a team over the decision making you've got. If you're creating an art asset, you have a degree of decision making about what that asset is. If you're making design decisions or code decisions, those minute-to-minute decisions until they affect other people will sit on your shoulders. And when you've got those things, you're probably feeling slightly happier. And I really want to focus a bit more on autonomy, because I think people misunderstand autonomy, and I think there's some thought processes that I've found over the years that have helped me a lot. Autonomy ultimately comes down to your freedom. And here's the thing that we forget sometimes. It's really easy to get stuck in ruts, but we are all free. The important thing to understand is that freedom is not free. Freedom comes from making decisions, and those decisions have consequences, right? So if you're in a job that you don't like, and you're saying, turning up, I'm miserable every day, I don't feel like I'm my free, best autonomous self, I'm having a miserable time in my job, your choice is quit the job, right? It's easy. Quit, done. Yeah, but I've got a wife, I've got 3 children, we're supporting it, or I've got a husband and 3 children, I'm supporting our family, whatever those choices are, there are consequences to that. Screw this, I quit, your family now can't eat, and if your family can't eat, that's bad. So what you're doing is saying, I'm not going to quit my job because my family needs me, and I'm going to support my family by doing this thing that makes me a bit more unhappy than I'd like to do. But all of a sudden, that's then become a choice, right? What you're doing is saying, I value my family over my personal happiness. I'm going to give up some of my personal happiness to support my family, and all of a sudden, you're no longer trapped. You're making a conscious decision to stay in what you're doing because you don't like the consequences more than leaving. Does that make sense? And I think that's sense sometimes. Sometimes you can feel disempowered, you can feel trapped because you don't realise that you do have a choice, but you're choosing to make a decision in a specific situation. And the point of you make a decision is when you've taken control of your life again. I'm going to keep doing this thing I don't want to do because I'm doing it for a greater purpose. Yeah, makes sense. And it's important to remind yourself of this at regular intervals. Those points when you feel trapped, weigh up your choices. I feel trapped in this situation. Okay, what are my choices? What are my consequences of those choices? What am I going to do to make myself happier? It's pretty simple. In fact, I think the art of project management, and you'll see some of the themes in this, is surfacing the important decisions, having the information to hand to make those decisions, and then making the decision. Not making it an accident, not ignoring it and hoping it will go away. It won't, it will get worse and worse. Those anxieties where you're sat at home and you should be relaxing and you feel anxious about something, that's normally an unresolved decision that you haven't dealt with, right? You need to kind of make those decisions. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is make your judgment better so you can make better decisions, because if you make better decisions, your life will be easier and better. Yeah? Simple as that. So my quest in my life, and I haven't always got good at it, but I've got better at it, is to constantly reflect on the decisions that I'm making, the consequences of those decisions, deciding if I was happy with those consequences, and then deciding if I need to reevaluate my judgment to make better decisions going forwards. So your thing that becomes important to you in your existence is your sense of judgment. You can't control the world. The world's going to do what the world's going to do. No sense of your will is going to be able to change everyone else's opinion, right? You can't change other people because other people are going to do what they do. If you work in teams, people won't always make decisions. You won't always like other people's judgment and the choices they make. You can't change that. You can barely change and control your own emotions. They're going to do what they want to do. They're part of attached to your subconscious. It can sometimes feel like it's a whole entirely different, separate person. The only thing you can control is your judgment in those situations. And by improving your judgment, hopefully you can moderate how those other things impact you. Like if I don't like how someone else is doing something, I can't change them. What I can change is my attitude to how I feel about that person. If someone else makes me angry, that's not their problem, that's my problem, and I need to reflect on how I can stop myself becoming angry when that person does something I don't like. If I do that, then I'm controlling the situation. I'm making a better choice. Yeah? And at the end of this, all I do, like every day, I take my life, run it through my choices and consequences. At the end of the day, I look at my judgment, I look at my day every day, how did my day go? Oh, it went badly. Okay, what went badly? Well, that thing. I had an argument with someone. It flared up into a massive thing. We both stormed off. Neither of us felt happy about what happened. Okay, well, that went badly. What could I have done to make it a better discussion? What was my role in that? Because I can't change their role. I can't go, oh, that was just on them. You know, there's an old adage that if you think everyone in the world's an arsehole, maybe you're the arsehole, right? If you're looking at a situation going, oh, they dealt with that really badly, oh, screw them, I'm never going to deal with that again. No, you go, what could I have done that might have made that better outcome? Because I can't change them, but I can change me. Personal accountability. And here's the thing, all the way through life, life's brilliant, because what life will do is you'll go, okay, I've honed my judgment. My judgment is now a better thing. I'm making better life choices. I'm taking control of my decision making, and then life's going to do what life's going to do, and it's going to really test how good your judgment is. It's going to really put it through the ringer. And life's this brilliant opportunity to build this sense of beliefs, test them against reality. When your beliefs are found wanting, you can go back, reevaluate your judgment, and have another go. The nice thing is, here's a fundamental truth, and it's the only, a great thing about being older is I've seen this happen a lot. When life's good, it will get bad. When life's bad, it will get good again. Yeah, if you think of times where you might have been really unhappy, if that time was in the past, you can probably remember a time after that when you got happy again, right? If you wait through life enough, it will get better. Likewise, when things are going well, as a project manager, that's the point where I'm going, okay, this isn't going to be permanent. Like, life is not going to be good forever. Something bad is going to happen. So I need to be prepared for that and know that that cycle is going to happen. But the beautiful thing is, when it goes bad, and if I can stick through the bad, it will get good again. Like, in reality, it goes a bit more like this. Like, the good isn't always the same, the bad isn't always the same. You bobble along in life. I remember being in a job that I loved, falling out of love with the job, rage quitting, not knowing what I was going to do with my life, setting up my own studio, releasing a whole bunch of games we were really proud of, releasing a game that I'm still proud of but didn't make very much money, my dad dying, my publisher and investor pulling out the project, me having to close the studio, make all my friends redundant, go through bad, and then getting a job that I didn't particularly like for a while to pay the bills, and then getting made redundant from that job, then taking 6 months off of work, and then suddenly realising I was completely fried and burnt out, and then finding a job that I enjoyed again, and now things got good again. It's that thing of that wave. And it's knowing that if you can stick with the bad times, actually it's going to be all right. Things will get better again. And all you're trying to do is constantly hone your judgment and going, okay, I can't change what life is throwing at me, but how can I get better at dealing with what it's throwing at me? And sometimes, and this is the absolute truth, sometimes it's, well, the way I'm going to get better at dealing with it is I'm just going to pull myself away from all of the horrible stuff for a little while, whilst I allow myself to heal and recover. That's kind of I was lucky I just about had enough money in the bank to take 3 months out from work, and that 3 months out from work allowed me to start to realise how burnt out I was. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to do it. The other thing to think about is when most people say good and bad, what they mean is when life's easy, it's good, and when life's hard, it's bad. Is that true? Like, actually often, in some of the hardest times in my life, it's where I've learnt the most valuable lessons. Yeah, I might not be thinking it at the time, because some of those times were tough. But some of the lessons I learned in those times are the things that have made me a better human, made me a more empathetic human, made me understand life a little bit better in those hard times. So just because times are hard doesn't mean they're bad. And actually, the more you can learn to be comfortable in those hard times and not allow it to impact you really emotionally, then actually the better you'll be. But don't try and test yourself in the hardest of hard times without practicing, right? Like, you want to be exposing yourself to stress in measured levels. Understand your baseline, understand how you're feeling as a human, and we'll talk about that in a minute, about how you can measure that, so you can know, am I ready for this situation? If the answer is no, don't push yourself there. That's what resilience is. Resilience is making smart decisions when life's tough, yeah? And if that smart decision is, this feels tough, I don't feel emotionally ready for this, then don't do it. There's an old, I think it's a Hindu story, but you may have heard it, but there's a phrase that echoes through it, which is, this too will pass. And it was a wealthy lord wanted to understand life better, wanted to get better. They were having some troubles, and they're like, how do I deal with the problems? And a wise man gave him a ring, and on the ring it just said, this too will pass. And he said, when things get good, look at the ring. Learn to appreciate what you've got while you've got it. And then when things get bad, look at the ring. Learn to understand it will move. Yeah? And it's this true thing. This too will pass. Everything's transient. Everything will change. The good, the bad, the everything. Learn to become okay with the peaks and troughs. And within that, our emotions do play a role in it. Like, I'm lucky, unlucky, lucky, unlucky, don't know. My neurodiversity, my particular way my brain works is all of my emotions are slightly turned down than everybody else's, which means I don't deal with some of the turbulence other people have just because of the natural way my brain works. That's just me. Other people will be different. We're all different. It's what makes the world a beautiful, joyous place. But understanding your emotions rather than trying to ignore them and understanding what's going on in your subconscious is a really important thing. Like, our subconscious is probably, I don't have enough time for this today, I've got 20 minutes, but the subconscious is more of you than your conscious is. Your conscious is your internal Morgan Freeman who's providing the monologue to your life story while your subconscious is busy doing all the stuff that constitutes your life, right? We think what makes us who we are is our conscious brain because that's the voice we hear in our head all the time. It's that much of who we are. The rest of us, is a much bigger thing. That's a longer topic. But like our trauma, our habits, our emotions, our memory, our bodily functions, our creativity, these are all things that our subconscious is busy doing on our behalf for us. Number one thing to remember, we are complex chemical machines, right? You can, like, everything I'm talking about is our day-to-day existence. We all know, like, mental health issues are also a complex chemical reaction. If you have a serious mental health condition, that's not you doing a bad job of your judgment or a bad job of your resilience. That's a chemical imbalance that's caused in your body and should be treated as if you were being treated for any other chemical condition or any other bodily condition. But in our complex systems that we have, what we eat, what we drink, how we sleep and how we exercise affects our chemical balance in our bodies. It's a scientific fact. If we're not looking after ourselves, bad stuff's going to happen. Like, our bodies are brilliant. They will adapt to all sorts of conditions really easily. But they'll adapt right up until the point where they can't adapt any further. So what you want to be thinking about is what you eat, what you drink. When I say this, I mean you want to be eating well, you want to be eating a rainbow of different foods, you want to be getting good nutrition. People who say they don't understand good nutrition are lying to themselves. It's because pizza's delicious. It's a beautiful combination of carbohydrates and fats that our brain goes, great. In nature, that level of carbohydrate and fat in one meal is really hard to get. Our brains are chemically wired to reward us for this. Go, brilliant. We have to then be the adult part of this going, yeah, pizza's delicious, but I can't have it 7 days a week, 14 meals a week as I have it for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I can't do that. That's going to have a long-term effect. I need to eat some vegetables and some fruit and some other stuff. I need to be drinking 1.5 litres of water a day, making sure I'm actually giving my body what it needs. I need to be getting 8 hours sleep a day. Be disciplined about it. As you get older, this stuff becomes even more important to you. I go to bed at 9 o'clock because I know it takes me 2 hours to settle because my brain's constantly worrying. So then I'm asleep by 11 o'clock, which means I can get up at 7 o'clock having had a good 8 hours sleep, or 8 o'clock if I'm getting up for a wee 5 times a night. That happens too, they don't tell you about that when you get older. Exercise, it don't matter what you do, the most important thing with exercise is to find something you love doing that makes your heart happy so you look forward to it. You finish work and go, great, I'm now going to do this active thing that I like. I don't care if it's dancing, frisbee golf, anything. If you're out in the air moving about, then that's all that matters. And then the last one's probably the most important, which is breathing. Our autonomic nervous system, this is our part of our body that deals with all of our processing, will swap between our sympathetic and parasympathetic responses. Yeah, we know this stuff. This is what we talk about when you hear people talk about the fight and flight, rest, digest responses in our body. This is our body moving, our central nervous system moving between these states in response. So like if a tiger runs into the room now, we're going to be moved rapidly into a fight or flight response because our body's going to respond to this. If you're getting that kind of response because you're doing something that's putting you at risk, that's your evolutionary physical mechanics doing their job. If you're sat at home on the sofa, supposed to be relaxing, and you feel that stuff happening, that's bad, right? That's your body telling you, I'm scared of something, something bad's happening, and you're like, yeah, but I don't know what, I'm sat on the sofa. That's like when people talk about anxiety, when I used to box when I was younger, and I used to go to this rough-ass part of Coventry and go to this boxing gym, and I'd walk up the stairs and I could hear people being punched in the head, I would get a fight-flight response. That's correct. That's the correct stimulus for the situation I'm just about to walk into. If I'm sat at home on a Sunday afternoon, and then the minute I think about work I get that same response, that's an incorrect stimulus. That's me saying I probably need to change something about my lifestyle, right? You want to be paying attention to these responses. Like, the beautiful thing is, if you think about how you feel when you feel really scared and how you feel when you feel really excited, those two feelings are really similar. Actually, the difference is the stimulus, right? Being punched in the head, scared. Going and standing in front of a room full of people to do a talk feels like scared. Maybe it's excitement, right? You know, because it's unlikely you're going to suddenly get really angry with me and then try and kill me. That's unlikely. It's an unlikely response. So my nervous reaction to that is actually just excitement, maybe. This was a thing, an actor friend of mine told me this. What they do is they say before they get on stage, if they feel scared, they just tell themselves it's not fear, it's excitement. They're excited about their performance. It's a reframing mechanic. What you want to do is you want to get really good. If you want to know what resilience is ultimately your body's ability to return to a normative state from a stress or relaxed position. So if you wake up in the morning and you still feel sluggish and tired and you can't get yourself ready for your day, then that's too far into the rest digest. If you are feeling constantly on edge and anxious all the time, then you are too far into your fight and flight response. What you want to do is you want to quickly be able to return from any given stimulus, walk to the gym, I go into the boxing gym, feel terrified, walk out of the boxing gym, feel fine again. Yep. Where am I? Like when I got burnt out, it's because I pushed way beyond where my restful baseline should have been, and constantly for about 5 years. Right? It takes a long while to then recover from that. Nowadays, I know what my healthy baseline feels like, and the minute I start moving away from that, I now need to know I need to do something. I need some time off of work. I need to rest. I need to find more recreation. I need to reduce my workload. Feeling that baseline, being aware of your baseline, like we were saying, am I ready to face the hard times? No, because I'm really stressed out and I've gone through a whole load of hard times. Okay, how do I get myself back to a recovered state? And the last thing I'm going to talk about before I go is this breathing thing. And this is a thing that anyone who's been to therapy will know this. This isn't a new technique, but I did this at a talk actually a while ago. This came from, I spend a lot of time doing fitness training. In fact, I actually coach people on using breath to improve their endurance and performance within really strong workouts. I fell down the rabbit hole of breathing. It's a passion of mine, both in that. I'm interested in breath work for its powerful effect on dealing with your subconscious and surfacing subconscious. It's really impressive what you can do in that. But I'm also interested in its immediate effect and how it can bring you down to a fight or flight response. If you think about how you respond when you're in a stressful situation, your breathing will elevate. Yeah, your heart rate goes up because it thinks you're about to be attacked or something. It goes, right, okay, I'm going to dump some adrenaline into the system. I'm going to spike your heart rate up. I'm going to get more blood moving around your body. I'm going to localize some of that blood around your belly, which is the butterflies feeling you get. That response. If you're in control of a situation, if you're in a meeting and you feel that happen because someone said something you don't like, that's you about to make a really bad decision. Because people in that fight or flight response are unlikely to make smart decisions. What you want to be able to do is rapidly return to your base rate. And all you need to do is this. Number one, wherever possible in your day-to-day life, breathe through your nose. Breathing through your mouth will over-oxygenate your blood, reducing your tolerance to CO2. Your tolerance to CO2 gives you resilience to sudden changes in what's happening in your physiognomic condition. Number two is square breathing. Whenever you feel you're in a stressful situation, take control of your breathing. Controlling your breathing will make your brain go, oh, I think I should be running, but if you can stop and start taking control of your breathing, maybe we're not going to get murdered right now. And it will immediately drop your heart rate. And square breathing is ridiculously simple. There are a bunch of versions of this, but it's super simple. So what you want to be doing is you breathe in, let's say for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. You hold for 3 seconds. You then breathe out for 3 seconds. You hold for 3 seconds, and then you just breathe in again for 3 seconds. And you repeat that for about 10 cycles. And after about cycle 5, you'll feel your heart rate drop. Because what you're doing is you're effectively, if you see what's happening here, you breathe in here for 4 seconds or 3 seconds, you're then holding your breath for 9 seconds before you breathe in again. Right? You're having an anoxic state, and that will lower your heart rate really, really quickly. If you find 3 seconds really easy, do 4. If you find 3 seconds really hard, because some of you, if you've been breathing through your mouth a lot, will have a low tolerance to CO2, so you'll actually feel that quite panicking because you'll feel like you'll breathe. Drop it to 2, and if you find 2 seconds too low, try 3 as a triangle. So breathe in for 3, out for 3, hold for 3, in for 3. So you're only holding your breath for like 6 seconds rather than 9 seconds. All you're trying to do is reduce that, and once that starts to feel comfortable again, then add seconds on and then get to about 4 seconds. 4 seconds on each of the sides, like a square, is a really useful way of doing it. I did this for, I was talking to someone I was mentoring, and she was about to deliver a company presentation. I told her this, and she phoned me up a week later, said, I can't believe the difference you made. I felt terrified before the presentation. I now delivered the best presentation. It was ridiculously simple and changed her life. This is life-changing if you could do it. There you go. All you're trying to do is return your baseline as quickly as possible. So, simple things. Master your judgment and your breathing, because then you can assert your autonomy in any given situation, and then all you need to do is find your purpose, and then you're golden. I'm done.